Hey, gun people. Just want to put out these two recent incidents that happen all the time but rarely get talked about. Is government driving like maniacs, endangering innocent people for no damn good reason, and then when they kill somebody they can't claim limited immunity and nobody's held accountable except the taxpayers who have to pay out these large settlements. So on this incident, a 22-year-old student killed in Provo, Utah crash was hit by a SWAT member headed to Pleasant Grove. So it sounds like the SWAT member was like on duty with his red lights and siren. No, he was off duty in his personal car driving like a maniac and T-boned this car and killed this 22-year-old student. But if you read the write-up, it's hard to distinguish all that. Student died in a car crash. Oh, so it died in a car crash. It wasn't killed by the police officer driving reckless. A student just died in a car crash. Oh, shocking. Tuesday, when it was hit by a member of Utah Metro SWAT team who was on his way to a standoff. So there was already cops on scene. The guy was inside. He wasn't hurting anybody. There was no emergency, and this cop gets to drive like a maniac and kill a 22-year-old person with their whole life in front of them, dead, gone forever, because he's from the government, he's got immunity, and he's here to help. Joseph Spencer's car struck while pulling out of a restaurant parking lot at 4 p.m., according to Provo Sergeant. The car was T-boned by another vehicle. Not by another vehicle. By a police officer driving recklessly in his POV, going to an emergency incident that wasn't even an emergency. There were already cops there. But anyway, Spencer died. Utah County Sheriff's Officer Sergeant Spencer Cannon said Thursday, Utah County Sheriff's deputy was driving his personal vehicle and was headed to an incident in Pleasant Grove when the accident occurred. Oh, he was just driving. Wasn't speeding, wasn't racing, wasn't driving reckless. He was just driving. Notice the narrative of the press when they want to protect government. Residents of Pleasant Grove in the areas 500, 600, blah, 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 asked shelter in place while police responded. Ooh, let's make sure that we make the incident look like it was really dangerous because we had people shelter. That way, the guy that killed somebody driving his POV recklessly will look like it was really needed. The man had allegedly, we don't even know if he threatened bystanders with a firearm before barricading himself in his home. So the guy was locked in his home, but the SWAT guy wanted to get there so fast so he could use his gun and kill somebody. He ended up killing an innocent 22-year-old. I mean, this is just outrageous to me, and people just overlook it. There'll be no outrage. There'll be no protest. There'll be no congressman writing bills to stop government from abusing their authority. Nothing. Pleasant Grove, Lone Peak, American Fork, Lee Police all responded to the area Tuesday in an attempt to negotiate with the man. Pleasant Grove Police Captain Brent Smith said, the man made death threats. Oh, he was really dangerous. Against police. Oh, my goodness. Well, then we should all just be able to drive like idiots and kill everybody to get there. And fired his weapon at him. Oh, officers exchanged fire with the man, and he was eventually taken into custody. So they saved the guy's life who was shooting at him, but they killed an innocent person just trying to get there. Wow. Police identified Robert Clark, booking him in jail on suspicion of aggravated assault, attempted murder, and felony discharge. So we got all these major charges here because this officer was responding to a really bad guy. Look at what he was charged with. So therefore, because he killed that 22-year-old who didn't pay attention to the crazy cops driving like maniacs in their personal own vehicle with no lights and siren and ended up killing somebody, well, you know what? He's a blue line hero. We can't say he did anything wrong. Officers involved in criminal incident investigation had been activated connected to Spencer's death. Provo police put out, Joseph Spencer, a 22-year-old student, was pronounced deceased at the location of the accident. The accident is still under investigation. Ooh, that's good. They're going to investigate themselves and find out that it was all okay. As the investigation continues, our traffic accident investigation team, in conjunction with officer involved critical incident. The driver of the black truck is a UCSO deputy who was traveling to a SWAT incident in place. Oh, so now he wasn't even speeding or driving fast. He was just traveling. At the time of the incident, speed was being investigated as a factor, according to King. Really? You need to consider speed's a factor at the look of this car and the look of that car. Wow. Hopefully there's a camera around here, but the cops will probably forget to go check buildings for cameras, and nobody will have video footage of this guy driving like a maniac. But anyway, that's just one case. Here's another one. Houston police shoot a 1-year-old child in the head while pursuing a robbery suspect. This woman's in her car. Guy tries to carjack her. She goes, I don't want to get out with my baby. And the cops open up on the bad guy and kill her kid. Well, actually, the kid isn't dead. He's had 7 seizures. He's been in the hospital on a ventilator for 10 days. If he's on a ventilator for 10 days, the odds of him surviving gets less and less each day he's on a ventilator. 1-year-old boy fighting for his life, struggled to breathe on his own, shot in the head by Houston police. But Rick, Houston police are heroes, and the new police chief there just left, and now he's going to be the police chief at Miami because he's had so many bad cops do so many bad things in Houston that he had to leave. So Miami Police Department hired him as a new police chief there in Miami. Perfect. The baby's mother's attorney representing her said Tuesday the shooting took place March 3rd. She was pumping gas. She saw police cars, heard sirens, said a news concert. Her son, Legend, was in the back of the seat of the vehicle. Small said the man got into her vehicle and told her to give him the car. I wouldn't give him my car because I let him know that I had my child in the car and that I would not leave my car without my son. Sitting in a car when a man jumped in and police were right behind them. Before I knew what happened, they had already shooting at my car, and I was just scared for my son's life. Now, the PD says she wasn't in the car, so she was pumping gas. Maybe she was next to the car. Maybe she was trying to get her son out. The PD's trying to say, well, we didn't know the kid was in the car because he's 1 year old. How are we supposed to know? I mean, we show up, we just shoot everything in sight, and if other people get killed, we got limited immunity, so who cares? So another incident of spray and pray, killing children now, killing 22-year-old college students from driving like maniacs. And you know what? Guess what will change? Taxpayers will pay out big settlements, big medical bills. Police will be covered under limited immunity, and no one will be held accountable, except the pesky citizens who have to work harder to pay more taxes for all these settlements. Houston police tell of different events. Executive assistant police chief. Is there a non-executive assistant police chief? Executive non-assistant police chief Troy Smalls said Smalls was not in a car when the action took. The 30-year-old man in question was a suspect in 2 aggravated robberies. And he was being chased by police, jumped out of the car and chased on the chase. The suspect was armed with a gun. Oh, so evidently executive assistant police chief Troy thinks that this kid getting shot in the head is okay because look how he justifies it. He was wanted for 2 aggravated robberies and he had a gun. What did you want the cops to do? Worry about this child's safety and not protect and serve and get to shoot the crazy man? Outrageous. The man refused to drop a weapon. Officers, multiple officers, fired several shots at him. And he died at the scene. Wow, they got to kill somebody. The baby boy was also shot. Oh, that's a little side note. Fearing for the mother's safety, one of the officers discharged his weapon. Oh, look. It wasn't the officer's fault that they killed and shot a kid. It wasn't that they didn't make sure they had a clear target. It wasn't that they were shooting deliberately so they'd know where their bullets were going. They just sprayed and played, killed a kid. But they did it because they feared for the mother's safety. I want to save the mother so bad, I'm going to shoot her kid in the head. That's the world we live in. I mean, it's just freaking crazy. Houston Police Chief Art said in a statement, sadly, baby Legend was struck. Aw. Officer at the scene immediately rendered first aid. They always like to say they gave first aid like that's a big deal. I shot 47 times, but officers immediately gave first aid. Really? Fender said he's not sure whether the officers knew the baby was in the car. That means they probably did know, and he doesn't want to say they know, so he says, I'm not sure if they knew. Because if he did know, you would think he would ask this so he could say they didn't know. The officer who fired the shot that hit the baby was a 15-year veteran. Oh, well, if he's been on for 15 years, then, hell, he probably knew what he was doing. He's deeply concerned about the baby and her mother. Oh. Federal said in a statement, Fender went to the hospital to check on him. Oh, he went to the hospital. Gee, I pulled my gun out and shot indiscriminately and killed your kid or shot him in the head, but you know what? I'm worried about you and I'm going to go to the hospital, so that makes it okay. I got limited immunity, by the way, so you really can't charge me or do anything, so I'm not really worried about that, but I'll give you some sympathy. Small's attorney, Ben Crump, the legend, has been on a ventilator for 10 days. Bullet was removed from her son's head along the right side of his skull, but there's still bullet fragments in his head. Legend has also had more than 10 seizures. Here's an interesting question. Why would they shoot knowing she was in a car? Not knowing if anyone else was in a car. There could have been other children. There could have been others in a car. But they shot, Crump said. Regrettably and chattily, Little Legend will live the rest of his life with the consequences of their decision. Yeah, so will the taxpayers, so will his mom. And you know who won't live with the consequences? The police. Why? Because they're heroes and they have limited immunity and they can shoot indiscriminately and kill whoever they want without repercussions. Representing Smalls, the objective is there innocent people in the line of fire, and we know that you do not shoot unless you know the target. We don't know that. I hear that said a lot, but every shooting I see, cops don't care who's behind or what's in their background. They just shoot. They spray and pray, because if they miss and kill somebody, guess what happens? Nothing. They still get their days off, they still keep their job, they still keep their retirement, and they can't get sued. Why should they care? CNN reached out to Houston's mayor for comment. Mom said my baby didn't deserve it. No baby deserves it. Of course not. The cops are freaking out of control. So anyway, just 2 incidents of more earning the hate by police out there doing stupid shit, unaccountable, mainly because of limited immunity, because of no accountability, and because they can. And then you got other idiots out there saying, it's a tough job, and we need to support them, and they're all heroes. Okay, yeah, great. Well, when it's your child that gets killed or T-boned or shot in the head, maybe you won't feel they're such heroes. We'll end that there with earning the hate.